Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Behind me, 2011 Honda Pilot. We're going to be replacing the rear brakes. We're going to do pads and rotors, so let's get cracking. So we already have the car off the ground and the tire pulled off. A good place for your jack is right underneath this spring, and then just pull the tire off. You can have a jack stand under it also, just for extra safety. So it turns out they actually don't need brakes, but I'm gonna pull these off anyway as if I was replacing them. That way, you know how it's done. First thing I like to do is take a flathead screwdriver, put it in between the caliper. There's a little window here, in between the caliper and the brake pad, and then I'll pull out on it. You can see that caliper moving. And what that's doing is pushing in the piston. That way when it comes time later to push in the piston, we don't have to push it in quite as far because we've already done about 90% of it this way. So just push it out till it bottoms out and we're done with this. You can see how much play there is in it now. Perfect. Behind here are two 12mm bolts. We'll pull that off and that'll remove our caliper. We'll just set our caliper aside. It's really light. You can just set it back up above the rotor area, kind of right by the shock over here, and you don't have to worry about it falling. As you can see, these pads have plenty of life left. So whoever told them they needed rear brakes, they were mistaken. So we can just pull these out. Now I'll be reinstalling these same ones, but just pop them out. It should slide out pretty easy, just like that. And what I like to do is keep the bracket on for now while I pull off the hardware. So bottom hardware comes off, top hardware comes off. Now when you put it back together, the bottom hardware has that little hole in it. So there are two different, a top and a bottom hardware. The one with the hole goes on the bottom. Then again, we take a flathead screwdriver and we want to just scrape out these channels of any debris, crusties, stuff like that. Do the top two. Just do the best you can. Do it to the back. Just the best we can to get all those crusties. That way your new hardware fits in nice and flush. Then we want to pull these slide pins out. They should just come off of the boot. You might have to hold the boot with your hand while you slide it out. And you see all this grease, we just want to wipe it off. Get all this old grease off. And then with an appropriate caliper grease, we're just going to apply a whole new coating caliper grease on the pin. You should not use petroleum-based grease. It's a special caliper grease just for these slide pins. And then I'll put it right back in, give it a twist as it goes in, and it should pop right back in the boot. I'll do that to the bottom. I like to do one at a time because sometimes certain vehicles will have a specific top and bottom. So by doing one at a time, I don't accidentally get them mixed up. So just same thing. Wipe off the old crud, put on the new stuff. Give her a little twisty-roo. Perfect. So now we can pull the bracket off. 17 mil in the back. I'll finish it off with my electric ratchet. And that slides right out. And if you need these channels, you can clean them up even better once it's off if you like. A drill with a wire wheel. Hey, that rhymes. Drill with the wire wheel. Works really good, just getting those out. Cool. Now comes a dreaded part, getting the rotor off. Honda has two Phillips screws holding the rotor in to the wheel hub. Sometimes those don't like to come out. Having an impact driver works really well. Just put it on there, hit it. Oh, that was pretty nice actually. Let me see if I can get it without that. Nope, see it just wants to spin. Oh, perfect. Came out. Sometimes these get reinstalled a little too tight. So the next time they need to come out, they're a real booger. But those actually came out super nice. Now again, with said hammer, we want to tap on the rotor. Now I'm saving this rotor, it's not getting replaced. But if you're replacing your rotor, which I recommend when you're doing new pads, it just makes for a really nice installation. New pads, new rotors, they mesh together really well. You get better performance and longevity. If you're replacing the rotors, hit anywhere you like, front or back, to pop it off. Just one tap there is all I needed, and it comes out. Underneath, this is called a hat right here. And that houses your emergency brake. So while you're in here, take a good look at your emergency brake pads. These look beautiful. And give them a good spritz of brake clean. Clean them all off, get all that dust out of there. Next thing we want to do, flathead screwdriver, wire wheel, choose your weapon. We want to get this hub surface nice and clean. Now it doesn't have to be shiny beautiful. You're just trying to get any raised crusties off so that your new rotor sits flush. So just getting all them crusties off. Now what I like to do is take a rust inhibitor, either fluid film or anti-seize, and put a very nice light coating around the whole face of the hub. That way your new rotor won't seize onto the hub. Comes off easier next time and helps prevent that crusty buildup. I'm not gonna do that on this one. Well, maybe I will, just to show you. Fluid film. Just spritz it all over. Don't get it on your parking brake. There we go. Even rub it around with your fingies. Get it all nice like. Okay, just a rust inhibitor for the future. Now when you take your new rotor out of the box, it'll have a protective coating on it to protect it during storage. What you want to do is take some brake clean, spray that off, wipe it with a rag the best you can to get all that protectant off. If you don't and forget to do that, it's okay. What'll happen is your brakes will smoke as that protectant burns off. Your brake pads heat up, the protectant will start to smoke. So we'll put this on. Just remember to line up your holes for the screws. Slide that on all the way. Just put it on. Nice. Now you have a couple options. You can put these screws in dry like this, or put a little anti-seize on them so they can come back off easy in the future. They don't need to be crazy tight. They're just holding the rotor on really during installation. You don't even need to put them back, but you didn't hear that from me. We'll just tighten these down just ever so snug. Back to the caliper bracket. We'll put our new hardware on. Remember which one goes in the bottom, the one with the hole. Right there on the bottom. And then the one on top is the other one. Other than that little detail of which one goes on top and the bottom, they just slide in nice and easy, no issues. So now we can put this back on. So bracket goes on. Top can go on. Our bracket bolts are torqued to 65 foot-pounds. And then I like to mark them with a marker after they're torqued. That way before buttoning things up completely, I can just do a quick visual inspection and make sure that I did torque the bolts, just in case I get sidetracked or something happens, I have to come back. Did I torque it? Did I not torque it? This helps. Now we can put the pads in. If your pads came with a wear indicator that has to be installed separately, it goes on the bottom back. So this back right here, it goes on the bottom. We can slide these in. Sometimes you just give them a little twist. There we go. I'll show you more on this front one. Also, if you have a little shim like this is an anti-squeal or anti-rattle shim. What you could do is just put a little of that caliper grease on the inside of the shim, and that'll create like a little damper in between the shim and the pad. That'll help reduce noise as well. So let's put it in like this. So kind of in at an angle, and then it twists in. So just that kind of little twist, just like that. Slide it in, and you're done. The cool thing about pushing in the caliper first, at least on this particular vehicle, is that was enough. So we don't have to push it in manually any further than we did at the beginning. So we can put our bolts back in, bada boom, tighten these down. And those are torqued to 27 foot-pounds. All right, there you go. These brakes are done. The other side is done exactly the same way. What I like to do before proceeding to the other side is going inside, stepping on the pedal a couple times to pump the brakes back up. That will help prevent the master cylinder from overflowing with brake fluid. Because as we push this piston in, that master cylinder fills up a little. So if you push in the other side, it'll fill up even more. Has the ability to spill over. So by doing just one at a time, it helps prevent that spillover. Just a little pro tip. Also, right here, let me see if I can show you just a little better. The orientation of this, so the nut is on this side, but there's kind of like a nut on this side. It's the other end of the slide pin. Slide pin goes through here, so this is the top of the slide pin. You want to make sure that that is oriented or turned the right way, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you actually do this. But there's a certain orientation that if it's off, the caliper just won't bolt back on like it should. So no big deal. If you do get it a little off, you just twist this little head of the slide pin so it fits in its little groove slot. So no big deal. All right, there you go. Now comes the fun part. You have to take it on a test drive. You want to burnish or break in your new brakes. How you do that? Get the vehicle up to about 35 miles an hour and then come to a nice solid stop. You want a nice firm stop. Don't want to lock up the brakes, but you just want to come to a nice good stop, let off the brakes, pick it up to about 35 miles an hour again, and do the same thing. Come to a nice solid stop, let off, take it up to 35. Do that about 4 or 5 times. Make sure there's no traffic and stuff happening around you. About 4 or 5 times, and that should be plenty to burnish in your new brakes. After that, drive it like normal, good to go. All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.